Are you searching for the best in online black radio? Then go to blacktalkradionetwork.com, helping you filter through the noise. Real talk, black talk.
The internet is full of half-truths and all-out lies. We've all seen them, and many people on social media complaining about it. Here's your chance to show and prove. WorldAfropedia.com is a black-owned and operated encyclopedia. There are several thousand articles, but we need help. We can't uncover all the truth ourselves. So please, join us and become a writer, editor, or blogger for WorldAfropedia.com today. Every little bit counts. We owe it to the future generations to put the truth out there. Visit WorldAfropedia.com, the African-centered encyclopedia, a global database of African knowledge for the purpose of bringing about global African wisdom and understanding. WorldAfropedia.com.
Racial tensions are high after the last couple of weeks. The police killings of 2 black men and now 8 police killed in 2 separate attacks. These tensions can show up at work, too. NPR's Yuki Noguchi reports some coworkers are struggling to find the words to help make things better.
The day after 2 white policemen shot Alton Sterling in Baton Rouge, Contonious Gill went to work and got into a discussion with one of his white female coworkers, whose brother happens to be an officer. The woman defended the police in the Sterling shooting. Gill, who is black, couldn't let that stand.
I didn't walk away because I want her to know that you're not going to say something that I disagree with or something that's erroneous, and I just leave you with your thoughts. Since you left me with your thoughts, I'll leave you with mine.
The conversation was intense but civil. Gill, a network administrator in Charlotte, North Carolina, says it was unusual. His white colleagues usually don't seem comfortable talking about race.
I think that people maybe expect a lid to come off or something, because, of course, I do have a lot of feelings about it.
He has a lot of feelings, in part because 3 years ago, Gill and the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission won a race discrimination suit against his former employer, trucking firm A.C. Widenhouse. A jury found he was subject to racial slurs and threats to, quote, hang from our family tree. Race isn't just touchy for workers. It can also create problems for employers. Racial discrimination and harassment at work is illegal. And in the last 3 years, the number of such cases filed with the EEOC has increased. Even if an incident doesn't go to court, experts say employers that don't act fairly and decisively to punish racist behavior risk demoralizing their workforce and hurting productivity. And while free speech rights apply to personal speech outside of work, employers are increasingly concerned about how workers' online posts affect the workplace. For example, in the days following the Dallas police killings, the Nashville Police Department decommissioned 2 officers for inflammatory postings on Facebook. In one of them, Officer Anthony Venable, who is white, wrote, in an apparent defense of the Minnesota policeman who shot Philando Castile 4 times, quote, yeah, I would have done 5. Police Chief Steve Anderson told Nashville Public Radio the incident is under investigation.
He may have disqualified himself to be a police officer.
3 days later, another Nashville officer, Christopher Taylor, was decommissioned after posting a photo of the Black Panthers on his page. Howard Ross, a diversity consultant, says he saw similar conflicts in police departments and other workplaces boil over after the shooting of unarmed teenager Michael Brown in Ferguson last summer.
People were coming right off the street the night before, being out in a protest, and then working side by side with somebody, and the energy from the protest got brought right into the workplace.
Allison Manswell is also a diversity consultant and author of Listen In, a book about racial conversations in the workplace. She agrees heightened tension is finding inappropriate expression in the form of slurs, fights, or surly online posts.
There are some workplaces where the culture and the environment was already prone to this, so they have got their hands full right now. I can tell you that with absolute certainty.
But, Manswell says, the answer isn't to quash discussion. She argues it should be encouraged in a mediated forum. Coworkers should offer each other mutual support, she argues, comparing the shootings to other fatal disasters.
What's been happening around police brutality is a tsunami in the African American community. How might it feel for all coworkers to come to work the next day and to not acknowledge that there was a tsunami?
Manswell lives in Baltimore, where today a third police officer was acquitted, but 3 others still face charges in last year's death of Freddie Gray. She mediated a discussion between coworkers who shared their feelings about race.
The conversation was difficult. There were tears. I mean, literally, there were people in tears. But there was this high degree of understanding that came out of it at the end that was so worth it for everyone.
Contonious Gill, the network administrator, agrees. He says his conversation with his white colleague helped.
We haven't spoken about it since, but I'm not tense. I hope she's not.
Relieving that tension, he says, is the path to restoring civility.
These things definitely warrant discussion because, right now we are reeling. These things can't be set aside. They're not going to heal themselves.
Yuki Noguchi, NPR News, Washington.
I've seen similar situations in an office setting. As you know, I work for the government, and I've found that people have free time, and they begin to come and to gather together, particularly black folk. My question is, what is the correct codified way to respond, or to respond to this type of situation?
Talk about something constructive.
Well, I'm not really a part of that conversation, but I'm there because I'm in the office, and these people are there because they work with me. Okay. And they begin to talk about, for instance, the conversation went a couple of days ago about the woman was on the phone and she had gotten a phone call from someone home telling her that her child support check had come. And this was like 4th of July, New Year's all at once for her, because she said that she had not received the child support check in so long. So everybody in the office within a matter of minutes, because she was yelling and screaming, oh, my child support check had come. Everybody in the office, how do you, like she was like the next office over from me, but I could hear this. And these people constantly use the N-word whenever they choose in the office setting. Do I approach these people, or do I, because as of this point, I have just not done anything. How do you do? What is the correct code to deal with?
When black people use the N-word?
Yes, sir.
You can say that if the person is talking to you, you can say, I wouldn't use that kind of language because I don't think it's constructive.
I don't have a whole lot of conversation with them.
Okay.
But I'm there in the office because
right.
I see this going on.
Only when you have the type of conversation with them where you can talk to them and minimize conflict can you say anything at all. Okay. See, everything that you say to a black person is supposed to be in a way of minimizing conflict. You don't want to escalate conflict.
That's why I haven't said anything.
Okay, well, don't say anything as long as you think you will escalate conflict. Now, sooner or later, some black person will come and slide a chair up to you because you don't say very much. That black person will probably be in trouble because all these hyperactive black people that's all over the office saying this and saying that, sooner or later they wind up in trouble with white people. And then they want to talk to somebody. And the person that they usually will talk to is the quiet black person because they figure that you kind of halfway do some thinking. And you're not always doing what the rest of them are doing. So what it is, they will come and sit down beside you and say, I got a problem down here. These folks are messing with me. And then they're ready. And then that's when you tell them about that particular problem and drop whatever else you think is constructive on them while you're doing it.
All right.
Now they're hooked. See, because what they usually get from the other black people that they always jawboning about is, man, you shouldn't have done that. I told you about going down there. You down here talking this random. You should be like me. I ain't never in no trouble except that thing that happened last week. But that was a fluke. But so all right. Like the person said, oh, every time I look around, you're writing something down. You say, this is what I was taught. I was taught to write. In fact, I was told that if I couldn't write, I couldn't get the job. See? In other words, that's the law of compensation. Everything that they give you, you turn it right around, throw it right back at them. Every time you catch that ball, you throw it right back. Okay, so do you get the point? I think that was an excellent illustration that she made. And you write things down, just like you say. A person says something, say, oh, that's very interesting. I'd like to write that down. Repeat that. and then you put it in your... Now, I learned this myself, not from myself, but by observing some black people who held jobs and who people didn't hardly touch, by observation. And some of them didn't write things down, but they had excellent memories. Others wrote things down. But they were able to go to meetings and say, "Sir, I have a question." And then the person say, "Yes." And say, "Now, when that other incident happened on July the 3rd in 1952, and this is 1971, has that changed since then? Because I haven't seen anything written down where this has changed. And when Joshua did that on July the 3rd, such thing happened. Now you all are doing something different. I just like clarification on this. So you make that comparison, just like you were talking about. You make comparison between one situation and another. Now the only way you can do this, you either have to have an excellent memory or you have to write things down. I worked with a person once who had an excellent memory, and he knew how to pick out things that were important. He would see something happen that hardly anybody paid any attention to. He'd make a mental note of it. 4 years later, he would bring it up, right when nobody expected it, and completely floor everybody. I mean, tear up the meeting just on one thing and say, "I'd like to say something. When so-and-so did such a thing on such a day and such a thing happened, I mean, that wasn't the way that was handled. Can you explain that?" And then the situation that you have right today is turned completely inside out, and they've had to drop it. And I've seen him save a lot of people like that, and I've seen people put him on the list of being, "Hey, don't ever let you see this person do anything, and don't let him see you do anything, that you're not supposed to be doing, because he will make a note of it or he will remember it." And 5 or 6 years later, at a time when somebody's supposed to be on the spot, he knew how to get that person off the spot by making that comparison. Okay? Just by raising a question.
Context of White Supremacy. Gus T Renegade in for another broadcast, hopefully to share constructive information on the system of white supremacy. Today's date, Thursday, December 29th, 2016. So I have been told this is our weekly broadcast. It's every Thursday. I think there were still some folks who just were confused and were not certain about the date and time. Workplace racism is every Thursday. Every Thursday, always the same time, 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central, 6 p.m. Mountain, 5 p.m. Pacific, if you're tuning in live. That's the time, and the number to dial is 641-715-3640. The code is 564-943#. Press star 6 if you would like to participate. The number again is 641-715-3640. And the code is 564-943#. Press star 6 if you would like to participate. Again, this is one of the few programs where I say, hey, this is not, really, it should be the case all the time in terms of counter-racism, that it's not just something to sit back and spectate, or even worse, just to sit back and critique other victims of racism and how they are responding to white supremacy. That is not what counter-racism is supposed to be about, and especially workplace racism. Again, Dr. Frances Cress Welsing, I heard her say this numerous times, that you should not be able to get 5 black people together, 3 black people, 2 black. You should not be able to get, a group of black people together where you could not have substantial and lengthy conversation about how they have been mauled, terrorized on the job, whether it's sexual harassment, unjust compensation, being written up, being given bad hours. The list just goes on and on and on and on and on about our shabby treatment under racist work conditions. So this should be one where lots of people should be able to share. And either or, if you have figured out some things that work well to solve problems, to minimize conflict with other non-white people, to minimize conflict with white people, to keep you from being written up, demoted, just so that you can be on your job, get all your promotions, get all your raises. So you can just put your feet up, get your work done, get through your work career, and retire easy. Hey, you need to be on speed dial right now, because we need that sort of information. If you are what they call self-employed and you have figured out some things that changes the way that you deal with whites in a constructive manner, that would be great to hear as well. Anything of constructive value, even if it's reflecting, I say that consistently. We talked about reflection yesterday. Reflecting on your work experience and seeing, okay, this was back when I was a little bit more confused about racism, whites in general, and this is what happened on the job. This is how the situation unfolded, and I think racism was a part of it. This is what I did then when I was confused. Now that I have gained some insight, this is what I would do now, and I think this would work. I think that's helpful as well. Again, we have younger listeners who do not have an extensive work history, so it's always good for them to hear different types of incidents. And I think just all victims of racism, I think it's constructive to hear other non-white people, types of things that have happened to them on the job, because it's so similar. I know for so many people, when folks have shared, people have written in or called in about how similar whatever they've heard is to something that happened to them. And I think that just reveals more and more about what it means to be white. They're doing a lot of the same things. They coordinate, they share racist tactics, and I mean that explicitly, because we've talked about it. That's in, this goes all the way back to the plantation for the folks who were with us about this time last year when we read Edward Baptist, The Half Has Never Been Told, where he said that white enslavers, they would get together and share tips about how to manage the niggers on the plantation. So, they've been doing this for a long time. Hopefully, in a counter-racist effort, we're doing the same thing, getting together to share techniques, observations, strategies to try to improve our situation with regards to labor under conditions of white supremacy. A couple quick things to share. Number one, you heard Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. at the beginning. Great info. Website, producejustice.com. You can get word guide, code book, both. You do the whole gift giving thing. You could give out some counter-racist literature. Next, we had a person who shared an article. This was published just within the past few since the whole holiday nonsense. This came out this week. Employees' lawsuit alleges Versace has special code for black customers. I think somebody just said that about sharing tips and having a code about how you're going to manage the niggers. So the article reads, and this is from Fox News, a former Versace employee has filed a lawsuit against the fashion retailer claiming discrimination against black customers. TMZ reported Monday that a former employee in a Bay Area location, California, said the store had a special code whenever a black customer entered the store. The code was D410, which is the code for all black shirts in Versace stores, according to the suit. The employee, who said he is African American, said he questioned his manager about the code and was fired 2 weeks after being hired since he hadn't lived the luxury life, in quotes. He is suing for unpaid wages and damages. Versace has denied the allegations and has requested a dismissal of the suit. Moving forward, white people are not ignorant about racism. Person wrote in, they wanted to share. This is a non-white male. He also had some interesting tidbits. He is a non-white male with a white parent, Cowbell. He had interesting response to the program that we had yesterday, but that is not what this program is about. He also shared about workplace racism. He wrote, some thoughts I've been thinking about how to help non-white people. You have to have white associates, so-called white friends. I cringe at that. I certainly would not call them friends. Woof. Did I mention he has a white parent? That's like devastating. That shook me a little bit. if we're saying having a individual who's classified as white that you suspect of being a racist on the job, who has resources or who you think you can go to get constructive information, or who will be in some way helpful to you, even though you recognize that this person, and I mean at minimum, is probably racist. So, all of this has to be kept in context in terms of my expectations and trust, what have you. Certainly, I'm not thinking of this person as a friend. I would never, ever, under any conditions, as long as the system of white supremacy, no individual classified as white can be thought of as a quote unquote friend. That is just that counter-racist logic should reject that every time. So moving forward, we will not call them friends. These are individuals that we strongly suspect of being racist, who might be able to aid us in a constructive manner, even though they are still, at minimum, very probably racist. Continuing, these people are your access to other jobs and money. As Neely Fuller says, don't look at them as the enemy, but more as a source for all the goods. If you play your role, then they will allow you access to some of the goodies. I just contend that is not true. It's difficult for me to share something, constructive information that I don't think is true. And I would just say that if that were the case, the system, I just played that sound clip yesterday. If that were the case, if all we had to do was play our role and behave, whatever that is, and white people would share, we wouldn't have a problem. It would just be, that would be it. Just play your role. That would be all you have to do, and things would take care of themselves. And I have seen no evidence at all that is true. In fact, I've seen the exact opposite. So, yeah, and some of this could be wording, but, yeah, and again, I did say that this person does have a white parent. Continuing, you can't be aloof. They do not like that. Don't be too smiley either, or they won't trust you. They can see right through us. They know when we're being fake. Try to be as genuine as possible. I found this to work. Also, have a sense of humor. They really like that. You can joke about racism and try to be a counter-racist through humor. That seems literally the only way they bend a little. Ask questions. They love to talk. Gather information from them. Give them the info that you know, because they can tell when you're withholding it. They always have the upper hand in every interaction. The prison setup. Be on time. Have the best work ethic. Don't John Henry it. For people who don't know who John Henry is, they actually have a theory. It's a black professor at Duke University put forward called John Henryism. Basically that black people working twice as hard to get half as far as white people playing their role, that could be the very thing that is causing a lot of black people to die very young. Gwen Ifill, that we're reading tomorrow, to die at 61 from all these health ailments, particularly heart disease, hypertension, high blood pressure, cancer, things of that nature, that this is the black mental health cost of white supremacy and black people working extra hard. So he's saying, don't John Henry it, but show them that you like to work. Never try to one-up them, or they will that will intimidate them. Have a good vocabulary and try to use the best words at all times, or they will use your words against you. You have to be codified and do the things that work, and always know that you're in a weaker position. That's just the way it is. I would definitely underline and agree completely that last sentence about you're in a weaker position. Absolutely. That is the epitome of racism, white supremacy, that you are in a weaker position as a non-white person in relation to the power that the white race yields. We certainly all have VGQ, and I might have made it more difficult to process what the listener shared. Thank you for sharing, but just white and friend, like my counter-racist computer just completely shuts down like that. That just cannot be associated for, a myriad of reasons. So like I said, some of it just could be, better wording or different wording. Like we said, words are important, and using the best words. I think that was another part of the commentary that I agreed with. Last bit of info, and this was actually sent to me on Facebook, which is not a problem But if you're writing in, if it's a suggestion or something that you just want to share, like for workplace racism or whatever it is, it would be better to email untiljustice@gmail.com, just because I have folders, just to make it very easy so that I can keep track of things. If it's workplace racism, I have a folder for that. If it's a guest suggestion, folder for that. Like, just whatever. It's much easier for me to manage. Things can very easily get lost. I have not figured out a code to be as efficient with messaging on Facebook. So, it's not a problem if you send it there. I try to do my best to catch things there as well, but email would be better. This commentary. I have only been employed at this company since August of 2016. It's a family-owned trucking company with around 140 employees. Upon hire, I was told carrying your weapon, handgun, was permissible. Out of the 140 employees, less than 10 are black males. Of the 10, I'm assured all have white spouses. Woo! Cowbell. Significant others and friends. Also, the nepotism is generational. Many of the employees are family. My code is to complete my daily task and leave. I do not socialize. I do no socializing other than verbal greetings. For over a month, I kept getting office calls related to attending the yearly Christmas party. After a month of aggressive badgering, I decided to attend. Upon entering the party, I easily noticed who was drunk. The party started at 6 p.m. I arrived at 5:30. More importantly, we worked earlier this day. I collected myself at a table set for 6 people. At this table was another black gentleman. As the other black guys entered, they magnetically gravitated to their white people of choice. Although there was alcohol on hand, many of the terrorists were going to their vehicles for short terms back and forth between the party. I assume they were using more drugs. I will take that assumption as well. I am shuddering because this started with being able to have having a handgun is permissible. So, I mean, this could be like the worst concoction: firearm, alcohol, and whites. Like, oh man. So we hope this does not end terribly. Continuing. The atmosphere is set with an overwhelming amount of drunken white friends. There's that word again. Or he's not saying that these are his friends. These are just white friends of the people that are there, white family, and their black person of choice. Each group contained one black person laughing, cursing, and drinking with white people. Myself and one other black guy were set at the other door in near isolation. We heard motherfucker, son of a bitch, directed towards the black men within the groups. Trump t-shirts, rebel flags, and camouflage was everywhere. Remind you, I thought this was a Christmas party. All the employees were asked to come alone, but somehow little white children and women started coming out of the offices. No big deal until the children came into the venue. Children and alcohol, something seems... Anyway, they were wild and undisciplined, running, jumping, but with little speech. One of the children in particular, a boy around 4 years old, was the life of the party. This little terrorist seemed to navigate through guns, booze, erratic adult movements, food, serving, laughter, cursing, and possible drug usage to find us, the isolated 2 black males who sat by the door. Without words and a slow, steady movement, an autistic, emotionless stare, he approached. In a 2-finger motion, the child shot the guy next to me in the face. Slowly and steadily he continued, then he sprinted into the arms of one of the white women. I politely excused myself at that moment. I will attempt to call in tonight. In addition, I guess he means today. In addition, I was told to get in contact with the human resource manager to fill an application for a security clearance. So I contacted him by text. He replied that I take my pain pills because the application was an hour of pain in the ass. It reminded me of the author which spoke of AIDS. She stated gay white men would take pills to endure hours of anal sex. That was on this here program, 2012. Anyway, necrophilia, narcissism, and pornography. You can expect this from white supremacy, white people. Wow. I am stupefied. I have no idea what to say other than that sounds like an extraordinarily dangerous environment. I'm glad you made it out safe. It seems like you being codified worked. And I will say again, racist man, racist woman, racist child. Kamisha M. Africa, I think she was the first one that started making sure we did not forget about racist child. Kamisha M. Africa. Understanding Isna. She's been a guest on the program. With that, if I butchered not the person who just shared about the Christmas party, but the previous caller who was giving his code who has a white parent, if you want to dial in to clarify, or if I just didn't do a quality job presenting what you wrote in, please dial in and share whatever thoughts you want to add. And everybody else, certainly dial in the number 641-715-3640. The code is 564943 pound. Press star 6 if you would like to participate. Let's see, all the folks who dialed in, line should be open. Feel free to chime in.
Can I be heard?
Yes, sir.
Yes, since no one else was wanted to start, I just thought I'll stop doing what I'm doing and get busy. Don't have a whole lot to report because football season for high school level is kind of like it's over with. But generally what takes place during this time, especially if you are finished your last game of the season as a quote-unquote champion, there are some rewards that are involved in it that normally takes place. One of them is has always been, this is not my first time that I've been involved in this process, that they are invited to go to the Orange Bowl, which, if someone doesn't know, that's a major bowl game, collegiate bowl game that takes place. And my place of residence is only about 1.5 miles from the stadium where the Dolphins play and where the University of Miami plays their games at, and also where this game is located at. I believe the opponents is Florida State against Michigan. It doesn't look like that is going to happen, and everybody has their opinion about it. But I strongly suspect the reason why is because for about the last 10 years, there have been high school football teams, primarily down in Miami-Dade County, that have been headed and supervised by black males, and the vast majority of the players have been black males. And the white people who control all of that is getting pretty tired of these niggas beating up on their teams in the state of Florida. And they're not handing out any more awards and cookies for that type of uppity black people. I could be wrong, but that's just a strong thought of mine on why those things not happen. Now, with me, myself personally, I wouldn't even go anyway. Why, one would ask, is because of white people and alcohol. If you don't want to be in an atmosphere where that is, a football stadium is probably the worst place, probably worse than a bar, because in a bar, I don't think you have 70,000 people at that bar, but you would have about 70,000 white people at one time that you would be dealing with, and anything could happen. And I have been in that atmosphere enough times to not be interested. If I do watch the game, I'll be a few feet from a television set to watch as much of it like I can stand to watch as far as that's concerned. So other than that, and that doesn't bother me so much, because the main reason why I do coach is from the standpoint of the relationship that I would have with black males who are the coaches, as well as the players, and also some of the players obtain a means to finance their college time by getting an athletic scholarship, and I have assisted hundreds of young black males in that process. And that's basically all I have to say, and I'll continue to listen. Thank you.
Right on. Appreciate that, retired firefighter. Again, congratulations to the young males. Glad they got through the season safely, and it reminded me, you're lucky they allowed you to finish the season. It reminded me there were quite a few black, these are like little tykes, like 11-year-olds, 12-year-olds. Some of them, they started also not standing for the national anthem, and whites flipped. Like they didn't even allow some of these teams to finish the seats. Like there was, I think, one in Texas. It was a predominantly black team, black coaches as well. They didn't even let them finish the season once they kept this up. So I mean, you should consider yourselves lucky. You got the watermelon they allowed you to have by finishing the season. Maybe the other folks. Oh, you were gonna...
I was just going to say briefly, I actually stopped being out for the quote-unquote national anthem. I started doing that personally back in the 1980s. I would actually stay in the locker room, similar to what the NBA player was doing about 25 years ago. I can't think of his name. He had an Arabic name for my memory. I stopped doing that actually back in the 80s, as far as that's concerned, but I do it personally. I don't say anything to anybody else about encouraging or discouraging unless somebody asks me something. Then I may let that person know. It depends on who it is. One of the things that they do also offer to the team, and it probably would be offered to us. Of course, everybody in the middle of January has a Dr. Martin Luther King parade. I'm even probably if not going to join that also, because the parade itself is not the most constructive thing that I noticed on what's in the parade. When you have the quote unquote U.S. Army in a parade with a black male who lost his life along the means of talking about nonviolence, then I see a conflict of interest with that I don't personally care to involve myself with. But for the children, if they want to get involved with that and they're invited to it, fine and good as far as that's concerned. But for sure now, that's all I have to say on that subject. Thank you.
Other folks who we have not heard from, if you had commentary you wanted to add, feel free.
Can I be heard?
Yes, ma'am.
Greetings, beautiful people. This is 1842. I just have a couple of short vignettes or stories to share that I didn't get a chance to share in the past. So it's this quote-unquote holiday season. I'm the one that's in property management. Well, you know what? I like to clarify that. I am in property management as a concierge/property assistant. That's why I spend a lot of time greeting. That's why I plan parties and deal with all this other kind of stuff. So I forget what I was reading or listening to, and they were like, Negroes who don't want to, they'll say they're in like environmental something and they're like the janitor. And I was like, well, let me not be that Negro. So anyway, at any rate, holiday season, one of the things that folks do is they give a lot of gifts and all this other kind of stuff. I was out of the office one day. Someone needed to buy some stamps. So my fill-in, I had, set it up so that they could do everything. The white female who didn't have money was like, I'll pay you later. I was like, whatever. So I'm in the front greeting, and it was like $10 for a book of stamps. And I don't care, like, even if it's 20 cents, I'm going to get you your 20 cents because I don't like to be keeping people's change. So I was like, no worries, I'll bring it up to your office later when I get a chance. Not a big deal. She reaches in her pocket, and she has, like, some change bills, like 5s and 1s or whatever. So I take, and the whole transaction is very professional. I look at her, I was like, oh, yeah, the book of stamps. And she's walking by to get coffee. She's like, oh, yeah, 10, my bad. I almost forgot. I was like, okay, no worries. I'll make sure to bring you the change, And then as she has this change, she's like, oh, yeah, here. And, like, she has a group of people. One is that non-white female who has a white parent who was adopted by white people who wanted to talk bad about R. Kelly that I shared some other time ago. And she had, like, some other white people with her. And she went to hand me this, like, 5 and 1s or whatever. And I was like, no, I don't do that kind of stuff. I mean, like, I'm not above $8. I can always use $8, but I don't take tips. Not like that. Like, that's just, I don't know. It could be me, but whatever. So, anyway, so she hands it. I try to give it back. She's like, no. I was like, all right, well, I'm not about to make a scene. So I took it. All right, cool. You know what I mean? I went downstairs after I finished processing everything, got her 20-cent change from her $10 bills. I told her I would, put the money in an envelope, wrote her name on it, took it to her front desk person for the company that she works with. I didn't get you. Okay, she's on the 5th floor. I'm down in the concourse level in the basement. So I take the elevator up there. I'm like, oh, yeah, this is her change for the stamps. The person who took the money had no idea what was going on. So they just took the envelope. Was like, okay, I'll sit it on her desk. I did not even get to sit back down at my desk before the phone was ringing, and it was her. And so I pick up the phone, blah, 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 this is da-da-da, how can I help you? And she doesn't even know what to say. She's just like, so, yeah, like that's actually what she says. And so I'm silent, like, because I know she's upset. And she's like, so what? Like, you couldn't take it? And he paused. So let me talk to y'all. I didn't like the way that she did it. People will do gifts oftentimes, like they'll give you chocolates, muffins, cupcakes, gift cards, especially around this season. But the way that she did it was so pretentious and so white. I didn't like it. And I didn't like her using me as like the lowly Negro. You know what I'm saying? Like over here, pressed about $8. And the way that she handed it, it was like, it could have been $8 on a gift. It could have been $5 on a Starbucks gift card that you give somebody, and it's totally different. It's not about the amount. It was the way that she gave it, and it made me feel very small, and I felt like that was her intention because it wasn't a premeditated thought like, hey, 1842 is very kind to me. She always helps me out with whatever. I'll get her a gift card with $8 on it. She can go eat district taco or whatever it is. It wasn't like that. It was just like, oh, blah, blah, blah. Here you go. Like she can sit there and like flaunt and flex in front of that non-white female and these other white people that were with them. And I was just like, no, you know what I mean? Like, I don't like it. Screw that. And so she's offended, like back to the phone call. So she's like, yeah, you can't take money? And I no, actually I cannot, not like that. And she's like, what do you mean, not like that? And I was like, well, if it's, say, in the form of a gift card or like inside of an envelope or a card as if like you put thought into it or as a gift or you're thanking me for something, then yes. But you just reaching in your pocket and handing me money, no. And she was like, oh, well, that's weird. And I was like, well, it's just what it is. And the truth is I probably could have kept it, but I didn't want to. I didn't like the way that it felt, so whatever. And she took offense to it, as she should, because I was, what she felt was what I was doing. You know what I mean? Whether she wanted to say I was being uppity or whatever, most certainly was. Don't do that. And so that's one. And then another situation is because it's so slow in the building right now, and it's like New Year's, Christmas and then New Year's, nobody is at work. So I don't really have a reason to be there. Like I've been showing up and not really having much to do, so it's been really a waste of time. I'm the one that commutes, so the traffic is still bad because people are returning or still going, whichever one. And so I still have to deal with all the traffic to get into work and really not have anything to do. So on last Thursday, the new property manager, who I don't know and don't trust and don't like, was like, well, yeah, you could take Tuesday, because we already had Monday, we were closed, so you could take Tuesday. I said, okay. And he was like, we don't have to let your company know. Mind you, I'm contracted. And it was when he said that, I was like, I'm not really about that. Something about that just doesn't, it seems like you're trying to trap me. But I said, okay, I will think about it and I will let you know. And he said it again. And I was just like, I'll think about it. I'll let you know. So Sunday, I send an email, or it was Monday. I send an email and I'm just like, just to confirm, Tuesday is still on the table. I want it in writing. When I gave it all that thought, I said, okay, if you're going to do it, I want it in writing. I don't want to not show up on Tuesday, and next thing you know, on Wednesday, I'm getting called saying no call, no show, and now I'm out. So no. So no one responded on Sunday, because I CC'd the assistant property manager and nobody responded. Needless to say, Tuesday, I took my behind to work. At 7:30, they responded to me and was like, oh, yeah, it's still on the table. I was like, I'm already here, so whatever, and I still felt fine, because I told a couple other people, and I was like, I do not know him, so I don't know what his angle is. And so I expect to be deceived, mistreated, and terrorized by all white people. I don't expect anything less than that. That's just what's practice in racism. So if that was an opportunity for him to do it, I could see him doing it. So anyway, then they were like, well, you can leave early. So I left early on Tuesday. Then I came in on Wednesday. And then it was like, well, you don't have to come in Thursday and Friday, because we're really just that slow. Like, there's nothing, because no one's in the building. So I put it in writing. And so the way that I did it is I responded to both, and I said, thank you guys for Thursday and Friday, and have a Happy New Year. So they responded saying, Happy New Year, whatever, enjoy. So if anyone wanted to bring it up, I would say, well, here's the writing that says, number one, it was implied to me that I could be off that Thursday and Friday. And number two, if they had an issue with it, they could have responded to the email saying, we are not saying that, like, we still want to fill in, or you're not getting paid, or whatever it is. That was the way that I avoided any kind of pitfalls, was with that situation. And there was something else, but it's escaping my mind at the moment. Oh, for the man that touched me, who I wrote an email. He came, I was standing in the front greeting, and he came in, and I completely just ignored him. And he was all like flesh, and you could see his old jittery movements and stuff like that. I don't care. I did the right thing. It was great. Another thing is nonverbals. I say this most time, but it is so important to look at white people, as hard as it can be sometimes, because the assistant property manager, I don't know what's going on, but I know they're talking. What they're saying, I don't know, but it's okay. I'm not panicking, because I put in my 2 weeks tomorrow or something, so I'm not really tripping. But his nonverbals are indicating that something is going on, and he is so glitchy. And just pay attention to the nonverbals is what I'll say. Okay, thank you.
Appreciate that. That's I just wanted to emphasize, I think that's a really significant part of codification. I've heard Mr. Fuller say explicitly, never expect to be treated correctly, and he meant by anybody. That's just what the system of white supremacy is. Everybody is just encouraged to have disdain and contempt, especially for black people. So just having it in mind, I'm going to, send my email, I'm going to respond, but I'm already prepared that I'm going to be here at 7 o'clock in the morning. I'm not going to leave it a chance and think that they're going to do right and let me know in advance so that I could have the day off or anything else. I'm going to be, I think that's the best way to function. It keeps you from being disappointed and getting your hopes up, as they say, that, they're going to do the correct thing and value your time and energy so you can plan accordingly, not even getting into all that. And that way, if they do the correct thing, you can be surprised and you can enjoy it. The second part, the using email to generate your own written record, your own written documentation. I think that's great. We've had a lot of folks who've encouraged and echoed how well that has worked, so that shows that you've communicated with other people on the job. And you can even, if you want to ask a question that they need to answer in the email, or just state however explicitly you need to state it. The people that you work with and, how deceptive they tend to be. If, you even want to make it more blatant, blatant, more flagrant. Thank you for excusing me for Monday or whatever day it is, Thursday, Friday, with pay, or as detailed as it needs to be, as you think it needs to be. And that way, if they just send back the right on, Happy New Year, or whatever it is, great. Exactly as she stated, you already have sent it out, and they had opportunity to clarify any issues that'll let you know there was a problem. And if they chose not to do so, then they bear a big part of the responsibility for anything that should, go awry from all of this. For other folks, if you want to respond to what you've heard thus far, or if you have your own commentary, line should be open. Feel free.
Gus,
can I be heard?
Gus, can I say? Oh.
Were you going to add one? Were you going to add one more thing?
I did. It was just really, really quick, if it's okay.
For sure.
Okay. This is what I forgot to say. So I remember I told you all I am leaving, and so part of my codification has been to say Dr. Frances Cress Welsing's name to as many, not just her name, but even the cows, Gus, everything. Like, just spread as much information to the Black people as possible before I go. And I kept doing that, and with some young Black females, there was a Sister Soldier video that someone posted, and I watched. And I was at the edge of my seat listening to her speak. I was right on, as Gus said. So I ran up the front to the security officer, shared it with her. Two young females were walking out to, go get coffee or something like that. And I was yo, stop over here for a second. And I sat my phone, and I did not care. No one's in the building, so really only us, servant people are there in the building. And played it, and I've just been sharing, and when they walked away, I was now don't talk about no foolishness, talk about what you just saw. And so I'm just still that's adding that's just an enjoyment of mine right now, because I feel free to do it, even if it turns around and it looks bad on me, they're you didn't know Jaime was so Ngawa Black Power. I'm gone. You know what I'm saying? So anyway, thank you very much. I did want to share that.
Right on. Roz?
Yes, greetings to you, Gus. Greetings to 1842, the firefighter in Florida, and the other callers. She is my heroine of the day. I love her codification. I thought it was wonderful when she discussed the white female giving her the money, and the way she did it. It made me think of the Yule log. I don't know how many people know about the Yule log, but the Yule log was something that the slave master would give to the slaves during the so-called Christmas horror day. And what basically was a giant piece of wood that they would burn to warm their slave quarters. And as long as that wood was burning, they were considered to be free from working on the plantation. And once the wood finished burning, they would have to go back to their daily slave duties. And in some cases, the piece of wood was so big it would burn from Christmas through to New Year's. So to me, it just, and how she discussed the kind of disdain and racist attitude with which the racist female gave her the money, kind of made me think of what our ancestors probably used to go through when the slave master would come with that Yule log and basically say, okay, you niggas have some time off, but once this wood's finished burning, you're getting back to cracking that whip and, putting you back on the plantation and abusing you at will. And I'm sure even during the Yule logs burning, they were abusing and probably raping Black people anyway. But I just wanted to toss that out there. Just kind of reminded me of that. I did have a couple of observations as well, but I'll talk about that a little later and give someone else a chance to speak in case they wanted to speak in regards to what they've heard thus far. Thank you. Oh, also, I wanted to say the firefighter in Florida, my hero as well. I stopped doing the national anthem probably back in high school. And I'm 43 now. So definitely I'm with you on that. Thank you so much, and I'll mute my line. Can I be heard?
Yes, sir. Well, we could hear you, but it looks like Thomas in New York might have gotten disconnected. I reckon if he rings us back, we'll get his line as well. In the meantime, the other folks who dialed in who have a hand up should be with us.
Can I be heard?
Yes, sir.
Well, I've been on vacation this week for the, I guess we'll all say the horror days. Went over to my children's house and watched a little TV. watched a program. I think it was the Rubinstein, and it's a brother on the brother. They was interviewing a brother named Kenneth Chenault. He's over American Express, and I drive a truck for a living, and I notice I go to a lot of places they don't accept. A lot of places don't accept American Express. I don't know if you're familiar, Gus. If you do a lot of traveling? Have you noticed that?
I have not traveled as extensively over the last year or so, but I have seen throughout my life that not American Express doesn't seem to be as accepted as commonly as some other cards, MasterCard and some other brands.
Right. So when I seen him, I said, "Oh, okay, interesting." But outside of that, I don't have too much to report. Thank you for letting me share.
For sure. If I think Thomas in New York, I think he should be back with us if you want to try again.
Can I be heard?
Yes, sir.
Good evening to all. Man, Gus, you said MasterCard. That's a great name for the card, right? Every time 1842 calls in, I think the same thing. It's like, man, that wasn't a good year for black people. I think, like, man, could you imagine a year in review for 1842? I mean, it'll probably be like 18 hours. And congratulations to the firefighter, also to Roz, my man. And I just wanted to say, I've been experiencing, it's hard for me to call it workplace racism at my night job, which I'm getting dressed for now. But because the people I work for are Spanish, they're from the islands. But being that I'm a union employee, I'm not supposed to work 2 straight holidays. And somehow I had to work Thanksgiving, and now they put me on for Christmas, and they also have me on for the New Year's holiday as well. So it's sort of like, hey, that's not supposed to happen, and they kind of lied to me about the way things work, and I found out later, that they were being deceptive. And I'm kind of put in a position where I might have to get, a manager in trouble. And if I do, I expect, probably there'll be retaliation. But in order for my pay to be correct, if it's not correct, I would have to put, someone, I have to get this person in trouble. And it's kind of put me between, as they say, a rock and a hard place. So that's one of the situations I'm dealing with as far as that goes. At my other job, very interesting, the person that voted in, because I think I explained earlier they had a pizza thing and the kids came in and it was, mostly these white kids, and one of the black people brought in their kids, but either way, these white kids, somehow someone gave them some Sharpie markers, and they wrote all over the conference room table. I mean, with these permanent markers, I had to take pictures and send it to the boss who's on vacation. And, so they're very unruly. They pretty much ran their parents, from what I saw. And I kind of experienced that same thing. So I was like, wow. And, of course, this was during work hours, so it wasn't like I could leave, So it was kind of like I had to endure it, all the whining and crying. And as I told you last week on the show, one of them pointed and said, Mommy, look, there's a black guy, to my coworker. So training them very young. And that was all I had to say as far as workplace racism goes. I'll mute my line. Thank you. Oh, one more thing. As far as what firefighter was talking about, now I played high school football in the state of New Jersey, And when I played, South Jersey, the whiter schools preside down there. They were more dominant as far as winning the state championships. In Jersey, there's several state championships. It goes by the group, the size of your school, plays other schools that size. However, the championship was always held at Giant Stadium. And, when I played in the state championship and everything, it was at Giant Stadium. But now that the North Jersey schools started winning, they've moved it to the Buckers Stadium, which is a lot smaller and not as nice. So I just thought that was very interesting when he said that they didn't allow them to go to the game. I mute my line. Thank you.
With your compensation, you said that apparently somebody was not honest in informing you about this new job, and then you getting scheduled for these consecutive holidays, which you were told was not supposed to happen. Is the manager a non-white, quote unquote, Hispanic, or is the manager a white person, or is it a black person?
Yeah, well, it's a Dominican.
Oh, okay.
And being that the weekend fell on the holiday fell on a weekend that is my weekend off. They're not supposed to be able to take my weekend off away from me. Everyone gets every other weekend off. That's how it works when you're in the union. So being that she wanted me to come in on Christmas Day and my shift starts at 11, I told her, that it's not right, that I'll come in and work the holiday, but I'll only get 1 hour of overtime because once 12 hits, it's the next day. And she says what she told me to do, which was totally illegal. She told me when I come in, don't punch in. So I started thinking to myself, and she tells me don't tell anyone. So, of course, there's an older guy who works there who kind of been guiding me along with some information and things. So I tell him, and he says, by all means, you punch in. He says, don't, that's like you not being here. He says, let her adjust it later. So I punched in, and now she's saying because I punched in, and punching in was the right thing to do as far as I'm concerned, because she could have said anything, and it would have been her word against mine. So either way, she told me by me punching in because she didn't want to I think she didn't want me to punch in because she would get in trouble from having me work 2 consecutive holidays and 2 consecutive weekends. That's a double offense. So by me punching in, she thinks she won't pay me my overtime. So I said, okay, well, then I'm going to have to go to the union and tell them that you told me not to punch in. That's going to get her in trouble, potentially fired or in severe trouble because she's not supposed to tell an employee that. And, so she's like, oh, don't do that. I'm going to see what I could do for you, Papa. So we'll see. And I'm doing my line. Thank you.
I think you did the correct thing punching in. We've had too many situations, Roz and a whole lot of other callers who've called in where their compensation, where whites aren't, just off top, whites do not compensate us correctly for anything. And then even on that, they're stealing left and right and not, we wind up with a check where $400 is missing, $800 is missing. I think the black female caller in New York, she had shared about that when she was working in New York, where she said, money was missing here and she had to go and talk to a whole lot of white people and fill out paperwork and do all this anxiety if they're going to remedy the situation. So I think that is absolutely the correct thing to do. And just in general, anytime someone on the job where they're telling you to do something that is a flagrant violation of company policy, like, oh no, don't clock in. Like, oh, you were in an accident? Don't report that. Like, anytime, I would strongly advise against taking that advice because people just, even if it's other non-white people, you really want to be about justice with yourself, making sure that you are treated in a just manner, not being mistreated, not putting yourself in a position where someone can take advantage of you on the job, because this happens a lot. White people, non-white people, that's just the system of white supremacy. So anytime someone is recommending a flagrant violation, that's why I say no policy and procedure. Because I think we had the caller in the D.C. area, Jamie, she dialed in where she said it was a white woman. It tried to get her to compensate a vendor like way ahead of time before they got the product. And she said, well, wait a minute, this is a violation of our policy. And she checked in with a more powerful person there, and they said, absolutely not. Do not do that. That is potentially fraud. Like, this is, major violation. Do not do that. So I wouldn't care who it is, white person, non-white person. I just don't think that is ever really a good idea to flagrantly break a rule or what have you that could put you in position to, and particularly saying not punch in, like, oh my gosh, like I could see that in a variety of ways not working out well for you. It's hard for me to fathom how that's going to work out well for you in the end if you do not punch in. I'll hush there. Other folks with us have commentary they want to share either on what they've heard thus far, or if you have your own situation you want to address.
Be heard?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir. Greetings to Gus, the host, the listeners, and callers. I had a conversation with a non-white female. I think she uses the term that she's, I guess, Spanish and Native American or something. But I don't think she's accepted as white. And I told her about the guy that has been calling me a nigger or whatever. So her and a white guy that she walks with, I guess he's the computer IT person or whatever. And like they've been having problems with this same white person, like being very hostile and aggressive toward the two of them. So I remember one time the white guy, we were in the break room and they were having the food and festivities, and the white guy, he told another white person, a powerful person, that, he was pretty much verbally assaulted and had a fiery encounter with that same said white man. And he said, well, he bothers, he said my name, he bothers him all the time. Because I guess, the non-white female had informed him. So white man, he told me, he said, hey, we're going to take care of him. So whatever that even meant, he didn't explain what that means. So I just said, well, okay. So I guess he does that martial arts stuff, jiu-jitsu, I believe. So I still see the person. So going on the logic, whatever that meant didn't really mean much because I still see the person time to time, but I just pretty much just keep walking. But he, as I said, he said this to a black female, said that you nigger, you can go and die or something. And she said, I guess she had some kind of sympathy for him or whatnot. But I took the VGQ route with that, and she said what she said. And the next observation was, I was told by a white female that her and some other females were talking about how they think that I should get the Employee of the Year award or something like that, if there was one, because I don't think there is one, because they say that I have, I guess, a positive way about me, and the things that I say, I ask people questions, and that I talk about sobriety. So you said, they say, man, we need more people talking like that, like how you say it. So, that's what they said they were discussing about me. And the next one was, I was having a conversation with a black female about another white woman that is in our working area. And I guess she kind of has some suspicions because she is I believe, a Facebook friend with this person. And like I told you a couple of weeks ago, that she worked in this convenience store, and she was accused of being a racist by a black male. Sorry about that, black male. And the police came out there and said, oh, no, this is a cool white chick. So this is the white female that is in question. And she pretty much severed ties with her on the Facebook. and she said it was a questionable post that she put up about this is how people on the east side of town do things, and I guess she was trying to imply that since there's a high population of melanated people on the east side of town, like over here, trying to, I guess, pretty much make a mockery of black people. So, it definitely seemed that she was trying to communicate to me that this person was practicing racism, so she had a suspicion. And, she started going into things about history, about Harriet Tubman, and she said, oh, man, if I ought to live back then, and, Harriet Tubman wouldn't have had nothing on me. I was like, wow, man, I'm just sitting there listening to this, and, she says things that she would have done. So, and if I could share just two more, I believe I shared this, I might not have. Like one of the times when this guy, that same white guy, was very hostile, I said on the elevator to my supervisor at the time, it was him and a white woman on there. So I said, yeah, like I seen that same guy again. And I said, you know the guy that was, the guy that was calling me a nigger. So I said this explicitly, and I like that I said it too. And the white younger person, she looked at me. She said, "Oh my gosh, what? No, that can't be true. That can't be true. Like, no, really? Did that happen?" And now, what was powerful was that the white guy, he didn't say nothing at all when I said that. He just, he got off of the elevator and then just went on about his business. So I went to my desk, and the last one was this same guy. He retired today, and in his speech, he shared the metaphor about the mayonnaise jar that I had shared. Like, they said, well, do you have any parting words? So he went into talking about the jar with the golf balls being the priority of what everybody should care about. So I looked and pretty much looked at the eyes of the people who was listening to him, and I don't think they really understood the significance of that. And people was asked to pretty much bow down their heads and pray, and it was a bunch of food around. So that's all I can think of right now, and thank you for allowing me to share. Appreciate that.
Wow, we had quite a bit. It's supposed to be, normally it slows down a little bit with the holidays and seems to have intensified. The guy that called the black female, the race soldier that called the black female a nigger and was verbally terrorizing her, like, I would have that on that too, just to show that this is, widespread terroristic behavior going on in terms of, what should be done about this. Because I think you shared before about, it seems like the people there, they know how to deal with terrorist situations. If a white woman is threatened or feeling unsafe, they know how to respond adequately to get that stopped. And I thought it was phenomenal, VGQ, because I think a lot of times, as I stated earlier, we criticize how other victims respond to racism, and we don't. I'm sure that black female, I'm sure she's not sitting around studying Dr. Frances Cress Welsing every day and having a tremendous understanding of racism, white supremacy. And even if she did, she is a victim of racism. That's how she chose to respond. VGQ. I think that's the best route to go. So that was phenomenal to hear. I remember the metaphor about the mayonnaise jar because you shared it before. I had not heard it at that time. I think they finish it off with coffee because that's the small grains. You can get that in at the end. But the golf balls seemed like a Dr. Welsing moment, him emphasizing the significance of the golf balls in the mayonnaise jar. If you haven't seen this, you can look online for this mayonnaise jar parable. That's supposed to, I guess, teach you lessons about what is significant in life. But I know Dr. Welsing would get a big smile out of that one. So many different things in it. Man, that is amazing. I hope you get the Employee of the Year. That is amazing for asking questions and promoting sobriety. Amazing. We should do more of that. Ask more questions, ask better questions, and sobriety would be best. Say that all the time. If promoting that on the job gets you Employee of the Year, then maybe more of us should say, and that can be our excuse as well. Like, of course, sobriety. He just won Employee of the Year. I'm trying to be like him, like going out to happy hour. Of course not. That could be your excuse right there. I'm trying to win Employee of the Year. Let's see. Other folks who have commentary, if you either have your own incidents you would like to share, or if you want a commentary on what you've heard thus far, feel free. Everyone with a hand up, line should be open. Anyone that we haven't heard from at all?
Can I be heard?
Yes, sir.
Yes, I just wanted to say I don't know exactly how much details that I can give about this situation that I'm about to share, but I'll try my best. I guess I'll say it like this. Somebody who I know who works in recruiting and staffing has been making a tremendous effort to help victims of racism be placed in very lucrative positions. And I'm pleased to announce that somebody I know who works in the recruiting industry has been successful in placing one victim of racism in a well-paying job in Chicago, working for a startup. So this is a process that this friend of mine or whatever has been working at for a while, and it's seeming to produce really constructive results. This person that I know that works in staffing and recruiting would definitely appreciate it if you were in the I guess the technical field, if you do any sort of anything from UX design to software engineering. If you are looking for positions, if you could send your resume to Gus, that would be the best route to go about this. And then I will take the steps to contact my friends who are in staff recruiting to ensure that something can be done. It's not an instantaneous process. It requires a little bit of research and work and just the right opportunity to match up. But at the same time, it's working, and a friend of mine is having a lot of success with this. So I guess that is my contribution to workplace racism on that front. Thank you.
untiljustice@gmail.com. untiljustice@gmail.com. That would definitely be the preference, not any of the other routes people use to contact if you're going to send your resume, and then I will pass things along. Definitely appreciate that. Other folks that we have not heard from, anybody that we have not heard from at all who had commentary, and again, we do have...
Gus, can I?
Go ahead.
Sorry. I was going to just ask if I could say one thing before I have to head to the other plantation. Last week, a caller called in, or they wrote in, I believe, and they was talking about they have white and black employees who go out to eat and drink at lunchtime, and he's never invited. Do you remember that story?
Yes.
Yes, and I just wanted to say that he said that he didn't think they liked him. And to that person in workplace environments, it never has to do with like. It's that they don't trust you. I don't think it has to do with they don't like you. That white people drink with people they don't like all the time. It has to do with the fact that they don't trust you, and maybe the conversations they have and things of that nature they feel as though something that maybe you'll go back and talk about, or they have some type of mistrust towards you, and you have to earn their trust if that's the route you want to go. I would advise not to, and I'll meet my mind. Thank you.
Right on. Appreciate that. Folks, remember, this was pretty much, I think that's the gist of it. It was a black male. White people were going out for drinks or lunch or whatever it is with white people and black people going out together for this lunch happy hour or whatever it is, after hours, doing work, whatever it was. And he was feeling, I guess it could be an issue since he was not being invited. And I think pretty much everybody took the same view that you might be better off not attending. And I think Thomas just adding that it might not even be an issue of them not liking you, a trust issue. I think that's important as well. Other folks have commentary they want to add, either if you have questions or comments about what we've heard thus far, or if you have your own situation you want to discuss.
Can I be heard?
Yes, sir.
Greetings to you again, Gus. I'll get into my workplace observations. Today, they had a gathering for the people that will be leaving as of tomorrow would be their last day. So there was quite a bit. I would say the vast majority of people that were in my department were given a severance package and all kinds of stuff. So basically, only for those people who stayed until the 30th of December. So they had a gathering today. Of course, they're going to have alcohol. So they had champagne and they had a bunch of chocolates and stuff. Didn't eat the chocolate, didn't touch the champagne. And they went through giving some of the different people that were leaving, giving them accolades and just talking about the work they did and thanking everyone. Now, the general consensus with the people that were leaving was that all of those white supervisors were full of it. There were a lot of rumblings and whispers going on regarding just the quality of how they were treated at the company before it came to this point. And they had a non-white female supervisor who I got along with very well. She's of quote-unquote mixed race heritage. I believe it's her mother that's white and her father that's black. And she actually was very pleasant to work with. And there were some things that came up at the job when they were talking about her because she'll also be leaving as well. And they were discussing some of the policies that she instated in regard to helping the workers feel more respected, just giving them accolades when they did good work. Like she started these programs, and I didn't even know she was the one who thought of these things. And I thought about it, so once she's gone, some of these pale faces will take credit for it and act like if they thought it up. But she actually did quite a bit of good work. And it was interesting. Recently we were talking, and we got into some counter-racist discussion. And because she's always picking my brain about books and all kinds of information about African history and stuff. She'll talk to me about that stuff, and we've known each other for quite a while now. And ultimately, we ended up discussing racism, and it was weird because I know she has some white family members, and I think she has been experiencing mistreatment from some of those family members, but at least she's been potentially making observations that are bringing her to different realizations. And she basically says she was fed up and she needs to just start doing things a little differently. So we talked about racism in the medical field. I ended up talking about Dr. Harriet Washington's book, Vernelia Randall's book, Dorothy Roberts' books. And she was very happy about that information. She actually told me that she was dealing with fibroids, so I gave her information on how to facilitate working on that naturally. She said she didn't want to deal with any sort of chemicals or stuff that the doctor gave. When I discussed medical apartheid with her, and a doctor, I think it's Marion Sims, who butchered the black females and got accolades as the father of gynecology, I told her about that, and she was just fascinated. So I gave her that information. We talked about Dr. Wilson's work, all kinds of stuff. And so it turned out to work out really well. And then at the same event, the racist manager who presides over the whole department, she was basically thanking people and making all of these company-based statements that were basically lies because they knew they were mistreating everyone there for as long as we worked there, which is why it was her who caused the most rumblings amongst the crowd as to the BS that was happening in that room. So just wanted to throw that out there in regards to that situation. And then riding home today, I came across a white male that I see quite regularly drinking alcohol. He had about 4 beer cans between New York Penn Station and where I get off in central New Jersey in Hamilton. He literally had about 4 beers on the way home. And I thought about everything we talk about, because I've brought this up before, about black people being very careful about these white people that they encounter. You never know what they're on. They drink, they do their drugs like first thing in the morning. They drink and do their drugs throughout the day at work, and they drink and do their drugs on the way home from work. So we really have to be conscientious about the white people that are around us, and if there's any sort of potential negative situation, just be conscientious of the fact that that person is possibly, and more than likely, especially during the holiday season, probably high or drunk, which means that there's a heightened chance of something potentially dangerous taking place, and to just be wary of that. So I just wanted to toss those things out there and say thank you for taking my call, and I'll mute my line.
Absolutely. White people, alcohol, always a dangerous situation. Just seeing that this continues to come up in workplace racism, that, should signify quite a bit right there. Seems like at least some of you all, not everyone, but at least seems like, quite a few of you all have been able to do some quality sharing with other victims of racism on the job. That is commendable. I know that's not necessarily, in any environment, that's not always the easiest thing to do for many of us, but certainly on the job with all the pressures that are added and that sort of environment, to still be able to reach out and have quality contact with other black people where you can exchange views and bring up constructive info on counter-racism. That's outstanding for people that have been able to pull that off thus far. Let's see. Anybody that we have missed totally? Anybody that we have not heard from at all? Again, I think we do have more spectators hanging out this time. I guess people could perhaps maybe use the excuse that it's the holidays, and I'm sure there are a lot of people who either have had more time off, might not be working at all. I know some people, you might not have to go back in until 2017, but I think for most of us, you will be headed back there soon. If you're not there already, I think 1842. We'll be headed back there eventually, so we should still be thinking, scheming, because I'm sure racists, some of them right now, are sitting at home and thinking about the things that they will have in store for us come Monday. I think that'll be January 2nd. People return then, which we'll be waiting for, so we should already have that in mind. They don't take vacations. We shouldn't either. Feel free to chime in if you have your other thoughts or suggestions on what we've heard thus far. Let's see. I guess get this in last, since it's about to wrap up, with the holiday situation, any of the office party situations. Did folks have anything happen over the past week or so? Any of those parties wrapping up, or any of those engagements that you had to deal with? I don't know if folks had to do like the gift exchange, because sometimes you get wrapped into that. That can be a big deal if you choose not to participate, or even the year-end parties. I guess some people do have New Year's Eve parties and what have you. Anyone having to deal with that as we kind of push off? We'll hopefully be done with all that by the time we do workplace racism next week.
Can I be heard?
Yes, sir.
All right, I just wanted to touch on the Christmas party at my job. Now, I didn't go, and I'm glad I didn't go. I don't like to be around white people at all. So once the workplace situation is over, I'm out, and I'm gunning for home at that point. So what I did hear, though, is that there were a couple of drunken antics that took place during the Christmas party, where one person was drunk. Somebody had dropped a glass, shattered the glass, and there was another drunk coworker that was barefoot, like right near the area where the glass broke. That was one issue. Then another guy, Latino guy, and this is a non-white Latino guy, quote unquote Latino. I hate that term. Anyway, he said that he was sitting at the bar and he was drinking something at the bar, And when the glass was knocked over, that the bartender literally assaulted him and like came after him and like said he's a troublemaker, that he was the one who knocked the glass on the ground. He didn't have anything to do with it whatsoever. And the guy was just like accusing him and just verbally lambasting him right there on the dance floor and whatnot, until one of his coworkers came up and basically said that he had nothing to do with it. He was just sitting there minding his business, and the guy just assumed it was him, called them all kinds of troublemakers, and like was lambasting him right there on the dance floor. So another coworker actually, when I was hearing all of this stuff that took place, ended up saying that they need to start giving out provisions on conduct at these parties, because sometimes these people get drunk and don't know how to behave. I heard about another incident at a bar, which I wasn't privy to that because I don't go to bars at all, and I definitely would not go with a bunch of pale faces. And they got kicked out of the bar for just acting up, from what I heard. So there's a few things that have taken place that, thank goodness, I was not there for, was not privy to. But again, it lends back to what you always say, which I propagate as well. Sobriety would be best, and especially when you're around the most dangerous, predatory killers that have ever walked the face of the planet Earth. There's no living organism that has killed more than white people. Thank you, and I'll meet my line.
Wow. I've heard the exact same thing. Like, I've been on jobs in training where it was right. In fact, I've been on jobs where it was brought up repeatedly in my tenure on the job about the notorious misconduct at these office parties, where I've heard white people talking about people were fired, sexual misconduct, people got drunk. I mean, just all kinds of debauchery. It's just known. That's why I would keep that in mind. And like the caller who wrote in, who said that he went after he was nagged, he wasn't going to go, and they nagged and nagged and nagged, and he went. That's why I say, if you see anything, he went and he saw the little white child came up and did the shot, and that was, okay, I'm going to leave now. I would have a code if you got to participate, and you can just have that so you already know. And it goes for any of them, whether it's the holiday parties, because I know sometimes they have stuff. I know I've been on jobs, so they do stuff for the summertime. It'll either be July 4th or just in general, it's summertime, so we're going to have a summer barbecue, office barbecue or something like that, or birthday parties or anything that comes up. I would just file all that information away. And so then, even though you didn't attend, like with Roz's situation, you hear about all this stuff. I wasn't present for it, but this will be the gossip, in the office for the next month or so. Next time the invite goes out for, hey, we're going to go out for a few drinks, it's Don's birthday, or, Sheila's getting married or whatever, we're going to go, have a nightcap. Oh, no, thank you. I'm not going to participate. Well, what do you mean? We'll just go. Well, remember what happened at the Christmas party, and, people were talking about we have to add that to the training. So, I think I'm just going to pass. I try to stay sober. I think that's a good strategy. And I try to avoid all that. I'm not even a bar person. You just add that to your commentary if they have any of these sort of things happen at an event, or even if it happened before you got there, because I've had that happen too, where you go to a job and the conduct was so bad at previous parties that they were talking about it a year later or years later, they were still talking about it. So I would just add that to the narrative. I was going to say that as well. I do think it's very constructive, the audio clip we heard at the beginning, if you can generate a resource. Like if you have someone who has worked at your place of employment for 10 years, 15 years, significantly longer than you have, it can be great because they've been there for like 15 Christmas parties. So they've probably seen all kinds of things. They can give you a lot of information. If it's a non-white person like that on the job where you can be friendly with them and get some information, great. If you're in a situation where you don't have that and you'd end up having to talk to a white person, if it's a white person that you can just listen to, this is not your friend. So that this is not your friend, but you could just talk to them about what they've seen over 10, 15 years, however long they've been there, learn more information about things that have happened, how the business has grown. That can be to your advantage as well. Wanted to make sure I shared that. I've said that before, but I do think that's important. Other folks have commentary, things they wanted to share?
Hey, Gus, can I touch on what you just said?
Sure.
I'm sorry, Gus. I just wanted to just speak a little bit on what you just said. You made me think about something, too, because when you're discussing how when you started jobs, you've heard about things that happened years prior, and it kind of made me think of something that Oprah Winfrey would say quite often, which is when you meet people, and I think she got that from Maya Angelou, when you meet people for the first time and they tell you who they are, believe them. And it's the same thing with these companies. When you go to these companies and you hear horrific things about them or just the craziest of stories, do not discount them, because they're basically telling you what you're walking into. So when you hear those Christmas party stories, or the barbecue stories and things like that, take those things seriously. Don't walk into those jobs aloof, assuming that, oh, that was just 3 or 4 years ago. No, that's taking place right then and there. It took place the year before you got there, and the year that you're there is going to happen too. So just always remember that culture remains constant in the system of white supremacy, which is a culture of debauchery, sexual deviance, and just complete terrorism, whether it's psychological or actual, against non-white people. Thank you so much, Gus.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Get out of it if you can. If you got to go, be codified and take notes. I would do that too. Like the person that was there for, I don't think he said how long he was there, but I guess he got there at 5:30. It started at 6, and then the children went wild. The children of the corn. I would take notes. That could just be for you personally. In terms of what you saw, it seemed like he got good detail about victims and what they were doing, and the little racist children running around and their antics. Like, just take notes. Just take it as an opportunity where you are observing racists in a different environment, so you can note some of the subtle changes in how they conduct themselves, and you're getting to see them intoxicated. So if you got to go, that can be something that you do to kind of stay disciplined, stay focused while you're there. And then as soon as I would say, as soon as you feel uncomfortable, if you've been there 30-40 minutes and you're already feeling uncomfortable and unpleasant, like it's not even seeming like something where you can just, sit and tolerate things for an hour or whatever it is, I would go ahead and dip. If you've been there and you run around, you made your rounds, people saw you, you've done your 45 minutes, okay, I'm going to go ahead and leave. I would say that I always think that's better, to go ahead and leave before you hang out and things get worse, because they're going to continue drinking and that sort of thing. So, I mean, it could get dramatically worse and quick. So as soon as you start to feel like you're uncomfortable, you've done your 30-40 minutes, peace. I will catch you all on Monday. Other folks have commentary they would like to share. If you've commentary on what you've heard from other callers or folks who wrote in, or if you have your own situation you would like to discuss, feel free. The number again, 641-715-3640. The code 564-943#. Press *6 if you would like to participate. The caller who dialed in on the vote line, you should be with us.
Hello?
Yes, ma'am.
Hi, I just have been recently listening to your show, and I just wanted to share what's going on at my job. That's okay?
Oh, absolutely. That's what we're here for. Please proceed, ma'am.
Yeah, so I recently went to a Christmas party last week, and I didn't want to go, but I just went to show that, I'm not antisocial, or, because they like to say, you're antisocial if you don't go to their events, but I just really don't want to be around them. I don't trust them. So I don't know if there's any tips you can give me, to get out of interacting with them or going to their events, because I really don't want anything to do with them. And that's pretty much it.
That exactly what you said, that comes up all the time. I think we had a caller who wrote in about that at the very beginning of the program, saying that same thing. They're having their end of the year holiday party. He didn't want to go. I guess they asked him multiple times, and he rebuffed, and they just kept asking. And he said that they became increasingly aggressive in asking him, and so he finally conceded and said he would go, and then he didn't enjoy it. A lot of us, too, are in environments where if you reject and say, well, I'm not going to go, I'm not going to do the office parties, then they can say, well, you're not a team player, or it seems like you're not a part of our family, you're not a good fit. So then that can be grounds for them getting rid of you. So it's one of those things where you have to make an assessment about what you think about your environment. Is this the sort of thing, if I don't go to the Christmas party, is this going to be something where they justify not giving me a raise or a promotion, or even, moving, thinking about getting rid of me? Or is this just going to be something where they're just, slightly bothered or what have you for a few minutes or a day or so, and it moves forward? It doesn't impact my career, that sort of thing. If you're in a position where you don't think it's going to impact you at all, hey, I would say don't go. You can just say you have previous family engagements. If you have family in town that you have to take care of, look in on, and you just don't have time to do so, I always suggest or think it is possible to work if you just say that you've had, because if it's a situation, if it's a party where it's going to be alcohol, it's at a bar, or going that alcohol is going to be served. Hey, I've had issues with substance abuse, even if it's not you directly, just people that I care about in my life have had substance abuse issues, and I make an effort to not be at bars or places where it's going to be alcohol and what have you. I've just seen where that can do a lot of damage, so I just don't put myself in those sort of environments. I think generally people would accept that. I think there are a lot of other, you have something to, some people, they even go the minimal route. Just, I'm occupied. I just don't have time. I've got a previous engagement, and leave it at that. They don't even explain. I can't go into detail, but I've got a previous commitment. Just don't have time this time around. I hope you all have a great time. Have a drink for me or have a dance for me or what have you. But I just don't have the time and ability to be there. If you feel like it's a situation that or I guess I'll stop there. Is this a situation where you feel like you gotta go and you just gotta try to endure 40 minutes of being there? Or is this a situation where you think you could just say, hey, I got a previous commitment, I'm just not going to be able to make it?
I feel like I have to go, or I won't be promoted, or I can be fired. I just kind of get that from the job. Like, if you have to be a team member or team player.
Okay. Do you have another black person that you trust that you could go and be at this event for, I don't know, whatever time period you feel, just people saw you spoke, you had a beverage or whatever, a non-alcoholic beverage, so that people saw you were present? How long, do you just know at least one black person that would be able to accompany you to this event?
No, I have one black coworker, but she just, I don't want to call her a name or anything, but she just is too talkative with white people. Like, she likes to say how she doesn't date black men, and it's just, she's not the kind of black person that I want to be around either or talk to. So I pretty much just stay to myself, just try to focus on my work, and that's about it. But I just really don't want to go to these potlucks. I mean, yeah. Sorry.
Can I be heard?
Yes, sir.
Can I be heard? To the caller, my suggestion is to, it comes from my time in the nightlife industry. People in the nightlife industry, they would call it showing face. That is, showing up at an event to simply say that you were present, maybe even posing for a photo with one of your coworkers just for fun, to really underscore that you were there, if you're really going to go forward with that. But they would, their codification was, or the codification at the time was to show up at the event. If you didn't want to drink alcohol, you get yourself soda water and a lime, and then carry on conversation with the people that you have that you find the least offensive for at least 2 minutes, and talk to 3 people in this order, strategically placed around the event, and then you can exit in about 45 minutes. And that will, pretty much count you as having been there and you will not incur any sort of wrath that may come about from being labeled as an individual or not a team player or not a part of the company culture. I will say this: employers are very, very, very keen on cultural fit. That is just something that I'm seeing coming up with employers since I've been familiar with the employment industry since I believe 2013. So since then, this whole notion of cultural fit is a big indicator of if an employee will stick around, and that is oftentimes measured by simple things such as showing up for these events and not making a fuss about showing up for these events. That's something else that they're going to pick up on. If you express that you don't want to do this for any reason, they're going to, especially if you're a victim of racism, they're going to pick up on that. They're going to be aware of that, and they're going to register that. So to just arouse the least amount of suspicion or trouble, just think of it as part of your job to show face at some of these events. And if you keep codified and if you know what you're doing the whole time, it should go with a breeze.
Okay.
Can I be heard?
Yes, Roz, we can hear you.
All right. Yes, I wanted to speak to that too. I think that's a brilliant idea. If you feel that there would be negative repercussions, something that I know that has worked for me, and I've seen it work for others as well. And I think if that was Ken Steele, I think he's absolutely right, where you shouldn't voice your disdain for being at these events in any way around your coworkers. But something that has worked is where I've actually had a responsibility, whether it was picking up my son from school, something of that nature, or taking care of a relative, where it's a necessity that you go take care of that specific situation. And of course, if there's other scenarios that are not after hours, let's say, where there is no alcohol, if it's like a company barbecue during your lunch break or something, you can, show face there. But anything that has to do with after hours, I have an obligation, whether it's, taking care of a sick relative, picking up a child from school, whether it's yours or a relative's child who you babysit or watch in the evening, and just have that be that consistent situation where they know this is what this person does every day. So if this event's taking place at this time, we know that they're not going to be able to make it. But we have seen them appear at, some other event that was not after hours or something of that nature. So that way you can kind of have that balance in regards to just, like you said, like I think it was Ken still saying, at least being a part of the company culture, but not being forced to spend time that's outside of company time after hours with these same terrorists that you work with every day. And the other thing I thought about, too, was the use of that term family, because I hear that on my job, too, and quite a few jobs I worked in, they'll say, oh, well, you're part of the family, and it's nauseating as all get up to me when I hear that, because it just reminds me of how our ancestors were just severely abused, raped, mistreated on the plantation, and then they would say, oh, that nigga over there is family. They just raped you an hour before, and you're in severe discomfort from that abuse, but yet you're family to them. And that's exactly what happens on the job. You're family, but they're abusing you, they're terrorizing you, they're forcing you to be around these terrorists when you don't want to be around them, but yet you're family. So it's just something that I thought about just listening to that. It just reminded me of that nauseous feeling I get when I hear, oh, you're a part of the family. Thank you, and I'll mute my line.
Absolutely. I would also say, I know the female caller, if you're still with us, ma'am, where you were saying you felt like well, I guess maybe one of the only few other black females on the job or black people on the job. Maybe she's not as codified. Maybe she's maybe a little bit more confused about racism. Some of these events, they allow you to bring someone who's not with the company to the event. Like you can do a +1, bring a guest. If they allow you to bring a guest, if there's someone else in your life, family member, friend, that, you at least trust, you can hang with them for an hour and just to be there with you and keep you company. I think that would help too, particularly if the people that you work with are really nerve plucking. You all can do exactly as has been stated. You all can make the rounds, speak, get a water, have a seat, and then you two can talk. Or if there's one other person or a couple other people on the job that you can tolerate. You can be around and just, do small talk. What have you been doing? What do you got planned for the new year? How's your holiday been? Did you get what you want? Blah, 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 blah. You can just do that little, nonsense, and the clock will be ticking. If you got at least one person there that you can bring, that you can talk with, that is not hostile to you, you all can, make it for an hour. I think you can get through it without it being too difficult. Just doing exactly as stated before. If they got a photo op, you do your quick photo, 45 minutes will go by before you know it, especially if you have that one person. It might be a little tougher if you have to do it by yourself, but I would do my photo. I would go around 2 minutes, 2 minutes, 2 minutes, keep walking, have a water, make a trip to the back. If you need a moment, go out, use the bathroom. You can get on your phone and do a text message, do, a calm moment of meditation. Dr. Welsing, give me strength. Give me strength. You go out, you do another 20 minutes. You go to the bathroom again. I drank all this water. I'm just, got to go to the bathroom again, do a text, meditate. You go back out and it'll be time to go.
Can I be heard?
Yes, sir.
Quick question. Now that I'm thinking about this is something that frequently comes up at work on Monday. Every Monday since I've been in corporate America or whatever, this question always stumps me. What did you do last weekend? Or how was your weekend? I always feel like I don't give a complete enough answer. I always feel like I stammer over my words. I always feel like they can tell that I am purposefully not revealing what happened during my weekend. What do you think is the best codified response to how was your weekend? I typically, now just to offer some examples of responses that I give, I'll typically say, I had a really relaxing weekend, and then I'll say it at that. Or, I just hung out. Even when trying to draw examples from my mind, I just draw a blank. I have no idea what to properly say for what you did last weekend. And for the life of me, I never feel comfortable saying exactly what it was that I got into that particular weekend. Even if it was nothing, I don't feel comfortable telling them that either. So what is the best code of response?
I think we had a caller before who was talking about being on a job where they would get those type of questions and just kind of small talk, and they either weren't comfortable or they worked with a lot of racists. So, they just weren't interested in that sort of thing. And I just recommended, just have a little list. Literally, you can make it something where you just kind of jot it down on your phone or what have you, where you have easy access to it. But I just vegged out and watched Netflix. That would be one that you can get away with probably every other month or so. I caught up on my laundry. Or we cooked, and I would even pick out one specific thing. I would just pick out innocuous things. We cooked. There was a recipe I'd been thinking about. Bam, knocked it out. It was fantastic. Great food. Kicked it for the weekend. Or I would just pick out, hung out with the family. I know I would get away with that one at least twice a month. Just hung out with the family, didn't do much, just sat around, watched a little television. I would just make a list of those type of little innocuous things that you're really not going into detail. You're not naming anybody that you were with. You're really not saying anything. We mentioned cleaning, television, and food.
One thing that always trips me up, I've tried to use sports, and then they'll bring up a specific thing that happened during the sporting event, and then I feel like my cover is completely blown. I have no idea how to respond to that. Or it'll get too political if sports gets thrown into the mix. That's just a really touchy subject. So I really do appreciate the suggestions to say about cooking. But the thing I fear about saying things like cooking or Netflix, they may follow up with what did you watch or what did you cook and stuff like that. I'm still looking for something that is going to get me out of that situation without leaving me with the slimy feeling that I get after that conversation, because I really do feel bad after the what did you do last weekend conversation.
Can I be heard?
Yes, sir.
Yes, I could understand that. I keep it real simple. I'll just say I spent time with the family. Like Gus said, I tell them as little as possible, and I usually flip it back on them with a question. I'll just say, well, what did you do this weekend? That's usually what I do, and it tends to work. Another thing, too, is if you did bring up sports, let's say, and they brought up a specific event, oh, well, I might have been at the bathroom during that event, so I missed that event. I know I had to run to the bathroom a couple of times, so more than likely I missed that particular shot you're talking about or that particular play on the football field or whatever the case may be, if that's the case. But, yeah, I try to keep it as simple as possible. And you know what? It's weird that you said that you feel bad because, you know, you all of us want to be our whole human selves. That's just our natural inclination to want to be our whole human selves. But we're dealing with inhuman, subhuman beings. So we have to then curb who we really are in order to keep things as codified as possible to protect ourselves. And I think that's where that discomfort comes from, just wanting to be your whole self. And you're not able to do so because you're dealing with terrorists every day. So what I do is I'll reverse that. I understand I'm dealing with terrorists, so you get nothing from me. And if I happen to give you a little bit, that's fine. And then take that and keep it moving. As long as I know that I'm not doing something that is getting me an adverse reaction from the other party. So in other words, if I'm getting an adverse reaction, then, okay, I might need to give them a little detail every now and then. But if I'm able to just get that off and they're out of my face and out of my circumference, so they're not making me sick epigenetically, then I'm good. I'm good. So I would try to psychologically flip that thought process, and instead of feeling victimized by not being able to be your whole self, always remember that in their terrorism, they're being their whole selves with you. And when they're nice to you, they're not being their whole selves. And that'll help to balance off that discomfort that you might have by not being able to be your genuine self. Thank you, and I'll meet my line.
Oh, wow. Thanks.
I think with that sports thing as well, because I think Thomas in New York and some of our other callers, we had a listener wrote, I don't know if it was the female who just shared or if it was a different person, but they were unclear about how to dial in. The number again is 641-715-3640. The code 564-943#. Press *6 if you would like to participate. I know I've had victims of racism previously who said that Thomas in New York. We've had other callers who said that they do not talk about sports on the job. Even if they do enjoy sports, they still are not going to talk about it on the job just because of the racist stereotypes associated with that. I have known some victims where they flipped this around and they were genuinely not very interested in sports. So they would take advantage of that and always get things wrong. Like white people would bring up sports assuming that they knew about the game, but they would just botch it every time. And so, and they would just make this their own personal joke because the white people would just get like, oh man, you don't even know. Gee. And it would almost be like they would be frustrated because this black person kept botching it. So it would be like they'd be, oh, did you watch the game this week? Like, oh yeah, LeBron, he's so great, man. He's been winning with the Golden State Warriors for so long. They'd be like, what are you talking about? He doesn't play for the Warriors. Oh yeah, that's it. I get confused because I just didn't watch, and he would just keep doing that. And it was amazing, but it would work. And I'd say the white people would be the ones who would be more like, what are you talking about? He doesn't even play. You don't even know. And he would just keep like, yeah, I just didn't watch growing up. I still, I don't really follow it too tough. I'll see it every now and then, but yeah, just, I don't know it that well. My bad. I get confused about who plays where and what they did, but you can do that too. So if they ask like, oh yeah, we watched, yep, I saw the game. And then if you mess with, oh yeah, that's right. I'm not a big fan. I watch it from time to time, but yeah, I get confused. My bad.
Okay. That's brilliant because if you think about it, if you're a person who actually is into sports and know what you're talking about, with white people, they'll tend to become more argumentative because their team is the better team. Let's say if your team is a different one from theirs. So to actually play that role and do it that way is hilarious. You'll get their goat every time. they're getting agitated and you're having fun. I would have killed over laughing every time. That is brilliant. That is so, so brilliant. But I agree with not even discussing sports. That's something I wouldn't do. But if I was to discuss it, that would be the capacity in which, because I would have a field day laughing at them all day long. Thank you. I'm in my line.
That might even keep it from getting way political, because I think you had said that it'll end up becoming. I mean, if you're botching it, they're gonna have a hard time, coming at you and trying to talk to you tough about that Cam Newton and what he said and what you. I mean, if you messing it up, Cam Newton is great, man. He was with. Remember when the 49ers went to the Super Bowl? He was like, no, what are you talking about? He doesn't even. Oh, right. That was. I got confused. I'm sorry. It was. Right. And that's gonna nip it all in the bud from it getting too serious.
Absolutely. It'll buffer it from going in any negative direction, and you will have the time of your life laughing at them while they're thinking they're correcting you. Mm-hmm. That is beautiful. That is just awesome codification. Wow.
Oh, okay. Speaking of sports, can I be heard?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Speaking of sports and the workplace, one thing that I noticed, I think it was it was last week. One thing that I noticed was that a victim of racism, who is a prominent sports figure, I guess, was recently stopped by law enforcement officers, or rather race soldiers that were pretending to be law enforcement officers. He was stopped for driving while intoxicated. And apparently he was stopped at some sort of stoplight. And the suspected race soldiers, they got him on camera. I haven't seen this except for one other time while living in Chicago. There was a girl that, I believe a white woman who was drunk and who was stopped in the middle of 94, and they got that on camera. But this was a person who was stopped at a stop sign, a stoplight, and all of the suspected white supremacist males in my office, they were all playing this video all throughout the day. They all had something to say about it. I stayed out of it. I pretended like I didn't even notice that they were doing this. But this was a video that I was seeing being played on nearly every single one of their computer monitors. And I'm just wondering, did anybody else notice this in their office space, or was this just something that happened in my office space? Because this is, this is another thing that keeps on coming up in my workplace. They'll have black people doing bad or messing up, and it'll be the secret email chain or the secret thing where everybody's watching it and talking about it, and I don't know, it always makes me feel uncomfortable. Has anybody noticed this?
I've seen that at other jobs, not at the job that I'm at currently, but I've seen that at other jobs where they'll have these little secret conversations, and like you said, the email chain thing, and it'll only be specific people. There will be white people, and it'll be some sort of incident that involves a black person, and it's almost like it's a spectator sport, and they're watching something that they deem funny, kind of like how the plantation master would do the same thing. They'll find a bunch of black people practicing the dozens or whatever, and they would just get a kick out of watching them disrespect each other and be anti-black. So they'll take a video of something negative a black person's doing that's on YouTube, and they'll sit there and they'll spread it all throughout the office and then have their little hush-hush conversations about it. And what I've noticed, too, with them is if it is something that involves a black person, they'll sometimes look at you as if you represent your people in the way that person represents their people. I've seen it even in New York on the subway. If there's a homeless black person and the car has way more white people than black people, sometimes you get that look as if like, oh, well, he represents your people, and it's this look they give you. And then I've also seen when one of their own is homeless and they're sounding off and they stink and they have torn shoes and lice, and the white people will look at them like, oh man, you're the worst representation of what whiteness is supposed to be. And they would just look at them with scorn and toss their noses up. It's a very interesting thing, but I know exactly what you're talking about. Thank you.
Chantel, she was just on the program yesterday. I don't know if she shared about it on the program, but I know she spoke with me about it in detail. The white people on her previous job were notorious for that. I think, in fact, it became a problem where her manager had to address it because it was leaking. They were sending all of these images, and whether it was a story of a black person who, got in trouble or whatever, or just their little racist commentary, but this was an all day, everyday activity. And when I say it was leaking, it was getting out to other people who were not necessarily in that circle. And it ended up going to Chantel, that she was getting it, and other people. And I think she and some other folks spoke up and were just like, this is totally inappropriate for the workplace. And, I'm not interested in getting it. That's when, management stepped up and said something about it. But and even if you remember the DOJ report on Ferguson from last year, where they said that this seemed to be rampant activity there as well, posting about black people. This seems to be another strong part of racist code, particularly now, just sending these little emails amongst coworkers with all their, because you see people getting in trouble for this all the time, whether it's emails or text messages on their phone. It seems to be standard operating procedure. So I haven't seen it amongst whites that I've been around in any employment capacity, but there's so many different cases of people getting in trouble for this, or this being brought up, or it leaked out, somebody got the email that wasn't supposed to, or they got a record of the text messages later on, that this must be happening all the time. And surely then when they send those messages around, that is representative of all the black people, even the black person working right next to them.
Hey, Gus, can I relay something that I just saw that I think would qualify as workplace racism? It's just not my job. It's very interesting.
Let's hear it.
It was actually on the news, and there was a police officer who pulled over a young black male who had marijuana in his car. And he told him he would not arrest him if he did 500 push-ups.
It was 200.
And it was okay, well, maybe it's 200, but, you saw the clip too? It just came on, and there was a black cop. Yep. I was like, what in the world is he doing? And he got these push-ups, and then they said his mother said that she would have made him do 1,000 push-ups because she was mad that he got caught. And then it made me think of another incident that, actually, I think it was on YouTube, if I'm not mistaken, because it was my wife who put it to me. It was a cop, 2 white female cops who pulled over a black male who was a gospel singer. And they actually asked him to sing to them some sort of R&B song, like a love song, and they would let him walk for the ticket because he was actually wrong. And he had to look at these pork pigs and sing how much he loved them. And it was the most nauseating thing ever. And after he sang his heart out, you would have thought he was singing in front of the deity himself. And they let him go. And I was just like, this is nauseating as all killer. But those are the two things. Thank you. It was just crazy. It just blew my mind what I just saw. Thank you.
Right on. I assume people are chilling. I guess they're taking advantage since some people had limited work duty this week. They did not want to talk about workplace racism for at least 1 week. Other folks have commentary they wanted to share related to workplace racism. And if folks are not having issues, suddenly if whites have decided to behave at the end of the year, well, I'm glad to hear it, but be prepared because that just means they're going to go extra hard come January 2nd, this Monday. But any other folks have commentary, if you're listening, you should go ahead and get a hand up now, or other folks that are on the line, if you had anything else you wanted to add or questions about what you've heard thus far.
Can I be heard?
Yes, sir.
Yes, I wanted to share just a few more things, Gus. Sometimes I'm asked to witness to be like a witness in these marriage ceremonies. So since they passed the, I guess it's called the same-sex marriage law, I guess, where they can come in and apply. Like I have seen like an increase of that happening, but two things I wanted to point out on that is that the term, like when they were doing the ceremony, I guess like the booklet that they read out of, when they use the term you are now husband and wife, and they switch up the words and they use the term spouse when there was two females, but the term husband was used and the word spouse was used when it was two males. So I found that interesting. And like they would switch up parts. Instead of saying you are now husband and wife, say you are both spouses and have a happy life. So they just edited apparently. And there was another conversation I had with a black female where she said apparently there have been people calling up because she does the marriage license sessions, and there have been people calling up saying, given the assumption that they would get a discount off of paying for their marriage license because they're what they call same-sex couples. So she made a logical point and said, well, does that make us all equal? You were trying to get equality, right? And she said, does that make us equal if you get a discount? So I thought that was very interesting. And she didn't say whether or not these were white people, but I suspect they could have been white because we were talking about how that comparison is made about the gay rights and the civil rights era. And that's when she brought that up. So apparently there's been people calling up, making an assumption that they will get a discount on paying for their marriage license just because they are a same-sex couple. So that I think that could have been racist behavior. And that's all I wanted to add. Thank you.
That is intriguing. That's even if it's just a rumor, like if it's no basis in fact that, but I mean, if you said as people are calling in, right? So it's more than one person apparently who thinks that if you are same sex, quote unquote, you get a discount if you get married, right?
Right. She said it was quite a few people doing it. She didn't say like they were classified as white, but I think based on that pattern that they could have been white people doing this.
Huh. Fascinating. Even if that's a rumor, for that many people to be dialing in and thinking that they are supposed to get a discount if they, get married and are same sex, that to me just again says a lot about what's being promoted right now. But that's fascinating to be on a job where you are observing that sort of thing on a regular basis. That is wow. Equality for sure. Other folks, commentary that they wanted to get in?
Oh, Gus, I had an update on my coworker I talked about quite a while ago who was being terrorized by the manager I was telling you about. I got to sit next to her today in this farewell event for my coworkers, and she said that nothing was really done by the company. There's just been a don't speak to her policy, so the manager no longer says anything to her, not even good morning. And she said that's fine with her because she's making moves to get out of there herself. She's not a part of the group that's leaving. But I wanted to give that update, and then I'll have my update on the situation with my paycheck next week. I won't know anything until I get paid tomorrow as far as how this balances out and how I'll move forward from there. So I just wanted to just toss that out there too. All right, thanks again.
For sure. Folks, remember Roz shared with us previously, I mentioned him earlier today about the problems with his compensation, and he requested an audit to get the problem corrected. That was another one where I said you would probably be in a better position to go ahead and review your policy and procedure now as opposed to waiting to when there's a problem and then you got to do a crash course on, now where is it in policy and procedure about how you audit your compensation if there's an issue and all that. If you are familiar with all of that ahead of time, then unfortunately if you do have a problem, it's much easier to do a refresher just to make sure that you understand the process, to look at it again as opposed to you're having to learn this for the first time. So definitely we'll be looking forward. And that, again, to what I said with Thomas in New York, and like I said, a lot of other folks have talked about this, and folks are, telling you something that, I mean, you just know common sense. Oh yeah, don't clock in. We'll hook you up down the road. Like, man, absolutely not. Like, non-white person, white person, whatever the case is, those type of flagrant violations, because too many of us, we're already doing what we're supposed to do, and things still end up where we got a problem on our paycheck or with this or with that. So absolutely not just flagrant violations to not clock in, or we're going to compensate this vendor 6 months in advance for merchandise we don't have and won't have, until a half a year later. Just those type of things. Absolutely not. Or let me talk to someone, whoever my manager is, whoever my supervisor is, let me talk to such and such to make sure that they think this is acceptable to do. Other folks, anything else folks want to make sure they get in?
Yes, can I be heard?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Not my workplace racism, but it was something that actually made national news with the unprovoked. I guess you would call it a job evaluation that former NFL player Terry Bradshaw, suspected racist, had of Mike Tomlin, the present head football coach at the Pittsburgh Steelers. Basically, he said he's not that good of a coach, that sort of thing. Mind you now, of his record is unprecedented as far as how well he's been doing on his job. And you had a white person to come out in front of at least regional, this part of the world audience, and criticize a black person and about the job that they are doing. I really like Mike Tomlin. I believe that's his name. And he's married to a beautiful black female also, and I believe she wears her hair in a natural style. I've seen her in an interview, but that's something that if anybody want to get any further reading on it, they can easily find it on Yahoo. I think it's still pretty hot news. Yeah, that's all I had to say.
It does not surprise me at all. That's a whole nother that we could do a whole program on workplace racism, just on black people getting coaching jobs, just in the NFL. I mean, they have had whole rules put. I think it's called the Rooney Rule, because you have all these black males who went out and literally killed themselves, and ruined their bodies, and damaged, their brain, their health, all of this for white people to make billions of dollars for decades, but you can't find any of these black people. None of them are intelligent enough to coach. Like, that was NFL policy for years, before you even get to somebody like Tomlin being in that position, for him to be ridiculed. I think calling him a cheerleader, even suggesting that he's not a male. Cheerleaders tend to be females, so that's whole nother element of emasculation, which is a standard procedure, standard practice in the system of racism, white supremacy. I believe Mr. Tomlin is a highly melanated coach as well, but that's to be expected.
Yes, he is.
That's what I said before when we started the program, when I said you can do well. Mr. Tomlin has won a Super Bowl. In fact, that's your stamp as a coach once you got one of those, and he's been to multiple, unless I'm in error, that as a black person, you being competent and quote unquote playing your role and you just go out and do well, that is totally irrelevant in the system of white supremacy. You don't have to. The problem is not black people not being competent or just, say, I'm going to go in and just try to work hard, be on time, do my thing. That's not the issue. Tons of black people have done that, and they still end up being terrorized, obliterated by the system of racism, white supremacy. If anything, from what I have seen, being a competent, skilled, educated, we'll put in quotes, successful black person, you can get things done. Man, that nothing rankles up racists more than that. That's been my experience. This might be another example of that, but I mean, that's rife throughout workplace racism. Other comments folks wanted to get in? Folks satisfied for the day? Want to get back to enjoying the horror day and all of the festivities?
I was just going to say what you described in regards to what black males do to their body for the sport of football is, to me one of the greatest examples of John Henryism.
That is about the size of it. And, I mean, I have heard
how deadly it is. Yeah, I'm sorry. I was going to say just how deadly it is to do that and have that mindset and put your body and sacrifice so much of your future on the now for these people who care nothing about you. I just think that's one of the greatest examples of what John Henryism looks like and how deadly it can be.
Absolutely. And I've heard even people say that's one of the reasons that black people take, particularly I would say like football, basketball, take those particular sports so seriously, is that that's one of the few areas that racists have allowed black people to be to participate somewhat. So that's why that's taken so seriously. I mean, you can evaluate that however you want. The racism is still there and has been talked about for a long time. But yeah, certainly black mental health. I would not say the NFL has shown that they care about the mental health of black people. Workplace racism for sure. Other folks, anything else they wanted to make sure they brought up, touched on? Hope we still have people who...
That, sorry, can I be heard?
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Okay, yeah. I heard that. Now, I was never a football player. Growing up, I had a little brother that played a few years of football, but I was in soccer, so sports never really that serious. But I heard that in football in particular, that the coaches in football oftentimes it's a regular practice that they undermine the parental authority of the parents of the players to get them in a mindset to do some of the things that they do. So I hear that it's a very deep level of conditioning that goes on in these football programs around the country. And if there are any victims of racism that are listening that do have children, I wouldn't suggest that you expose your child to the particular sport of football if you're going to subject them to organized sports at all.
The comment that I was going to get in, I'll check with the female listener as well if she had commentary. We had several listeners who had talked about looking at opportunities, resources, either compiling a list that could be shared like a blog post or something that could be published online, just with different resources or strategies for non-white people that you can do either from home or where you can have some distance, where you don't have to be like in the same room or the same facility with whites, even if you do work with or are employed by whites. You don't have to necessarily be right there present with them. You can have some distance and, work at your residence or whatever, or maybe even cut them out entirely or as much as possible. We're working out getting some listings, resources. If more folks want to work on that, I think that would be great. I'm sure a lot of people could benefit from having that sort of thing, even if you already, let's hope, you are employed and, moderately satisfied, at least for the moment, with where you are employed. It's always good to have a backup. I think Triumph 3000, I think she talked about that, even when she was working directly for whites, having her own job that she was doing on the side gave her a lot more freedom, a lot more confidence, black self-respect while she was at work with whites directly. And it gave her the confidence and courage to know, hey, now if these folks really get on my nerves and I get tired of putting up with this, I have no truck walking away because I have another source of income and I've been saving my coins. I think that's always a very intelligent way to operate for victims of racism and to greatly moderate our unnecessary spending. Racists encourage a lot of that. The female caller, not 1842, the female caller on the vote line, did you have commentary you wanted to share or just making sure?
Oh, I just wanted to say thank you for the suggestions that everyone gave. It's going to be difficult because I don't like white people or trust them, so it's going to be difficult to even force myself or to go to the events for even a minute. So I'll try my best, but just want to say thank you.
For sure. You can, you should do something. You should plan something like after the event is over that you really enjoy. That is constructive, but something that you really enjoy. Like I think is so important because the terrorism is just ceaseless. It seems things happen to you, things that happen to people that you care about. Really like make an effort to like put it on your schedule to do things that replenish. So you know this is something that's going to be really, really unpleasant for you. Plan something. I would try and make it, if not that evening, like within the next 24 hours, like soon. That'll be really, really enjoyable. Like if you can go and get like a massage and spa treatment from at a black-owned facility, like that would be great, or something that's just going to be really constructive, and you'll feel better. Like your spirit will feel nourished. You'll feel nourished, like emotionally, physically, where you'll really feel better. It'll be something that's good for you. Like try to get that done to get rid of some of the just negative energy from that experience. Right on. And you can give us an update too. I don't think I've said it today, but I do try to say that often. For people that dial in, if you hear a suggestion on the program and you decide to utilize it, grand, you can let us know. If you reject it and just come up with your own plan, that is great too. We should all be using our brain computer. But if you could give us an update, that's always appreciated. Just what you saw, the conduct at the event, and yeah, just how things go. If you give us an update, that would be great. You and the rest of the folks as well. Anything else folks need to get in?
Can I say something else?
For sure.
Okay, so I also, like my coworkers also tell me that I'm quiet, and that's mainly because I don't want to talk to them or interact with them. So is there like any suggestions that you can give me of how I can just talk with them for a little bit so that way they don't feel like I'm antisocial or don't like them, even though I really don't like them, but I just don't want to make it obvious.
Weather and work. If you keep the focus on weather and work, two things that are inoffensive, that are constructive, that you can do for yourself. Just talking about the weather, the time of day, and what you are doing or what you should be doing or how to do whatever it is that you're doing better. These are topics that will definitely get them off your back, satisfy any sort of suspicions that you may be antisocial or not a good cultural fit. Or I suggest updating your LinkedIn, because they will if you are being told that you are quiet, you are being documented for being quiet, and this is definitely something that is not going to be seen as a good thing for you at whatever environment that you're currently in.
Thank you.
Yep, we've had a number of people who dialed in like over years that we've been on the air and talking about workplace racism. That is, I mean, it's incredible how common that is, something that ridiculous that you don't talk enough. On the job, no less. Not that there's something wrong with your work or that you're incompetent, just you're not, willing to come in and talk to us about what you did on your weekend. But the suggestion that we give out consistently has been stated, talk about work. I encourage that. As much as possible, like even if they're coming up and talking to you about, just silliness, what's your favorite shopping mall, or, where did you go this past weekend? What's your favorite vacation spot? Let's get back to work, new things, new projects that we're working on. Are they doing any remodeling in the building? Like just as much information about work and things that are job related as possible. Having questions about that and conversation about that, I think is great. And that way it's beneficial to you because it's been my experience that the vast majority of non-white people are poorly informed about their job or people on their job or just additional resources on their job. So if you can stay in that mode as much as possible where you are just learning. I'm just trying to find out constructive things about this job and the people that I'm around 40 hours a week. I think that'll work to your benefit. Then people will see you more often talking with, or you, at least it should be easier, right, for you to converse because you're just talking about jobs. You're not having to think of personal things and do I want to divulge this and that sort of thing. And you might even get some info. Hopefully you'll be getting info you can use. But that's my big recommendation. Let's talk about work and redirect any conversations, or when they come at you with questions that are about personal things, we're redirecting back to work and asking questions so that they can be giving you information about the job.
Yeah, because my other black coworkers, they joke around with them a lot, so they look at me like, why am I not joking around with them? And, so I'll just try to talk to them about work.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, it's, again, not being aloof. I tell people that all the time, speak. We requested the job. We want to keep it. You speak to the folks that you're with, morning, evening, afternoon, and work-related projects. That new project, they're going to be working in the parking lot. Oh, okay, that's good to know. Glad to know that information. Just whatever they're talking about in the building. They're opening a new facility down there. Oh, okay, great. That's incredible. Oh, we're going to have training. Okay, when is that going to be? Or you can suggest training if you have a thought or two, but just things that are related to the job. I'm a big advocate of that, and I know it can be tough if you're in an environment where there are other victims of racism and they are victims, maybe they're less confused, or maybe they're a bit more confused about racism, so they, are not codified. They're laughing and telling jokes and that sort of thing. White people, they love that. It's so easy for them to handle that standard. It really sticks out like, oh, wait a minute, this person is being quiet. Like they tend to be much more alert and suspicious if you're behaving that way and not loud and laughing and joking and ready to come give them a hug and, have some eggnog for the holidays. So just, don't be aloof, ready to talk, but we're going to talk about work. And I think hopefully that should make it easier for you. It would be good to hear people, because I know I've given out that suggestion and other people have as well. I've heard Mr. Fuller, that's one of his recommendations, I think. If you have been able to implement that, and can kind of let us know if it took you a while to kind of get accustomed to it and how you get the conversations back on work, how white people respond to that with you just asking for more details about the company or different projects or different aspects of the job. If you have been able to utilize that, let us know how that has worked. If it's been effective, great. If it's not worked, let us know. If it took you a little while to get comfortable with it, let us know that too. But again, appreciate the updates. That kind of gives listeners an idea about how the implementation, that this is not just chatting in a hypothetical, that this is what the application looks like. Anything else, or are folks satisfied? I will assume folks are satisfied. If you want to drop an email, feel free, untiljustice@gmail.com. You heard Mr. Ken Steele. Folks in the tech field, if you want to send your resume, that one, again, I prefer if it's not, like Facebook and other outlets where people contact me, if you could just do it untiljustice@gmail.com. That would, I guarantee you, that will minimize any likelihood of me missing your resume or neglecting to send your information to Mr. Steele. If you just get it to the email, I'm very, very sure we can minimize all that, and I'll be able to get it to him ASAP. I think previously when he shared and kind of gave out a similar encouragement to folks who wanted to contact him, maybe being able to get recruited. People sent through my email mostly, and I don't think we missed anybody. I didn't hear from anyone who was upset that, I sent my information and you messed over me, Gus. I think we got everybody. So if we can just keep it untiljustice@gmail.com. we will forward along. If you just have commentary, if you want to share your own experience, workplace racism, if you have a suggestion for something that you heard today, just your own commentary, feel free. We'll always, as I get them, I read them whenever we have the next program. So feel free to drop an email and I will share. We can keep it anonymous if you have concerns about that being identified as well. We should be here tomorrow, same program time, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. We are on Section 4. The late Gwen Ifill, and I talked about workplace racism, we talked about black mental health and John Henryism. Gwen Ifill died this year at the age of 61. That is a disgrace and an indictment of the system of white supremacy. She talked about how she was victimized throughout her journalism career, but we are winding down. We're beyond the halfway point. We'll be picking up tomorrow. She has a big section tomorrow on U.S. Senator Cory Booker. Cowbell again. He has a white parent, but his section is coming up tomorrow. This was his part in the book right now. He was not a U.S. Senator at the time. He was mayor of Newark, New Jersey. I think that's Thomaston, New York. But that'll be tomorrow, same time, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific, and then we'll be here for the compensatory call-in on Saturday, New Year's Eve. Normal time, 9 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Central, 6 p.m. Pacific. We will review the last week of 2016. Hope it has been a constructive investment of your Thursday evening. Again, think we had more spectators and or people that were enjoying their holiday, quote unquote, for the week, doing other things. The plantation will be back and rolling on on Monday, January 2nd, if it isn't already. So hopefully next Thursday we'll be ready to roll. And again, constructive strategies, or if you're having problems, that's what this broadcast is for. Every Thursday, no confusion, every Thursday, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. Thanks everyone for tuning in. Music to my ears to hear someone saying that it worked out constructively, just mentioning sobriety and encouraging sobriety, working out well for them on the job. Fantastic. That certainly would be best for us. You never know when you're going to bump into Daniel Holtzclaw, Darren Wilson, being intoxicated, beer, tobacco, cannabis, whatever the substance is. I've seen no evidence that helps us solve problems, particularly to neutralize situations when we are confronted with racists. Right on. With that, Creator, we ask that you help us remain patient with other black people, victims of white supremacy. We ask that you help us remain patient with ourselves. Remind us to demonstrate the highest levels of black self-respect at all times, in all places, each and every time we are in contact with another black person. It has been time. Replace white supremacy with justice immediately. Cal signing out. Thanks all for tuning in.
Nigga, you so brainwashed. I'm a victim, brother.
Problem. You're a victim.
I'm a victim of 400 years of conditioning.
Shut up.
The man has programmed my conditioning. Even my conditioning has been conditioned.